Hello everyone, this is gonna be a very exciting video. I'm gonna be ranking all of the eyeshadow palettes that I've tried in the year of 2023. I'm just gonna go from worst to best and I'm gonna be telling you what was worth picking up and what was kind of disappointing. So let's get into it. So I actually have, if I'm not mistaken, 28 eyeshadow palettes here in front of me. I tried a little less than other years that I've done this video with good reasons. I was moving, I was like, I shouldn't buy too many palettes because I'm gonna overwhelm myself. And apparently that kind of worked because I tried about 10 palettes less. But you know, it was still a pretty good palette year because I don't feel like I have palettes here that are absolutely terrible, unusable at all. Like, all of these palettes are definitely usable. None of these are super bad, but we're gonna see. I'm gonna get into it. Let's start with the worst palette of the year. Alright, so I actually don't think this is a terrible palette. I did put like the worst 5 in my worst of the year, but I have to say it's not that bad. So the thing with this palette, this is the Essence Bloomin' eyeshadow and eyeliner palette. I actually quite like the quality in this and I quite liked it in the video that I did, but it's like good for the price kind of quality. It is pretty like luster, it is not super special. The thing that made me put this in the last spot is the fact that it is not very inspiring. Like, we have 2 bronze shades that are the same shade, we have 2 pink shades that basically are the same shade, and then we have 2 orange shades that are basically the same shade. For a palette like this that is so small and you just are done doing looks very quickly with this one, and then the quality itself isn't special enough, it is just fine. So all in all, I was a little disappointed in this palette. I think that's also why it's a little bit lower, because I was hoping for more. I was pretty excited after the first look, but then when I had to use it more, it just didn't do it for me. And then we have the Dinsey and Catrice collab Winnie the Pooh eyeshadow palette. This is 020 Friends Lift Each Other Up. And this is not the worst eyeshadow palette either. Like, in the first look, I quite liked it once again, but then after using it more, I got kind of disappointed in it. I felt like all the shades looked kind of dusty, didn't pack a punch, like they weren't really pigmented, they weren't really shiny. I feel like if you pick the right shades in here, it can do a pretty good look, but for a palette with so many shades, there were a lot of dots in here, which made me kind of like lose excitement for it, and I gave it a pretty bad review. I put it in the worst of the year. I already decluttered it. It is just cute if you pick the exact right shades, and when you get into it more, it's just not the quality that I was hoping for, that I was looking for. I have another Disney palette from Catrice that's a little higher up that kind of made me hope that this was gonna be like that similar quality, but it was just too soft for me personally. Maybe there are people out there that could still like that. I feel like that is the case with most of these that are a little bit more towards the bottom. Like, people could still like these. These are still usable. I feel like there's a person out there for these palettes, and also for this one by Kiko Milano. This is the Soft Nude eyeshadow palette in 01, and this is just, it's supposed to be very soft. It has satins, it is really soft colors, it is really soft mattes. It is just a very soft palette, which makes it kind of flattering actually. It is just very soft. Like, if it suits you, there's something very flattering about it, something where I'm like, this could really work for mature eyelids. It is just so soft, and I feel like for me, my makeup style, like, I do love neutral looks, but I also love special shades, I love shine. This is just a little too soft. Then kind of the same story with the holiday palette from Kiko Milano from this year. This is the holiday premiere Made to Shine eyeshadow palette in 01 color Symphony, and this is kind of like this shimmery quad that is supposed to be kind of like glamorous shimmery shades that are kind of like a topper, or like, it's kind of like a companion palette. That's kind of how I saw it, and I have to say, at first I wasn't too mad about it, but after using it more, I just felt like, especially the top 2 shades, they were just a little bit too matte, they were just a little too flat. I was just looking for something more shiny than this. I feel like these shades are definitely not unusable. I even recommended this to someone because that person could actually like enjoy this palette, I think. But for me and just my style and shimmers and just what I was expecting from this, because I know that Kiko Milano can do really beautiful special shades, this was just a little lackluster. Just every time that I tried to like add a purple to the look, it kind of dulled it down, and I just wasn't the biggest fan of that. It just disappointed me every time that I used it. Then we have the Sheglam Spellbound Cosmic Crystal Eyeshadow Quad. This actually isn't bad at all. And this is, from this point on, I cannot say that things are bad quality at all. Like, I already wasn't saying that much, but these are pretty good. Like, we're getting into the pretty good stuff. This quad has decent quality. The mattes are decently pigmented. The shimmers are decently shiny. It's just nothing special. It's nothing that is so special that I want to get back into it and back into it and back into it. And that's kind of the thing. If there's a quad like this that doesn't have really special packaging or a really special color story, the thing that could get me really into it could be really good quality shimmers and mattes. Like, there has to be something. And I feel like with this one, everything, like every part of this palette is pretty like mediocre. I feel like a lot of people could enjoy this. Once again, I feel like this is one for the people that want something on a budget, that don't want anything super special, that just want like a basic eyeshadow palette to wear on the daily. This could work for a lot of people, but for me it wasn't very special. And then the other Disney palette, this is the Jungle Book eyeshadow palette from the Catrice and Disney collab. And I've actually done a lot of looks with it that I really enjoyed. I actually really like the packaging on this one. Like, it's gonna be this kind of like a lot of text and Catrice and like some stills from the movie. That's always gonna be the case. But for what we can expect with Catrice and Disney collabs, I thought it was pretty nice packaging. I really like the mint in this. Really like this color story. I feel like there are a lot of nice shades in here. Recently I tried to use this in a video and actually disliked the look so much that I decided to take it off. Like, I tried to do something with the warm shades and it got kind of like muddy, but I feel like I shouldn't be too harsh on this palette for having one look that didn't really go the way I planned. Also because I am not warm toned. Tried to use very warm tones. I don't know, something didn't mesh well there, but I have done a lot of looks that I liked. This is a palette with some dots in there. It's not a perfect palette, but I have done really cute looks. The shimmer in the middle is really nice and textured. I feel like for Catrice, it is still a pretty good quality palette, even though I wouldn't reach for all the shades. Like these lilacs as well, they are very lightly pigmented. I think this is one that I would recommend if you don't mind that you get a few dots for like having a really cute palette, cute color story, and it not being super expensive. Like, it is a palette that I'm gonna keep in my collection. I'm still gonna use it. It is a cute palette. I feel like if I would not have had that look that didn't go as planned, it could have been a little higher, but that was kind of like, oh, okay. Apparently it isn't on the level that I was thinking it was. No, I just like the overall vibe of the palette. I like the color story. There are some cute shades in there. That's what you need to know. But it's definitely not a perfect palette. I believe I did put it in like a fall eyeshadow palette's favorites video. At that point, I was really liking it. At that point, I had done a lot of nice looks. I'm just a bit confused now after the one look that didn't go well. Okay, let's move on to the Beautyverse palette by Charlotte Tilbury. This one is 75 euros. I don't know how much it is in dollars, but this is what the palette looks like. It's a 9-pan. It is pretty cute packaging. I quite like the packaging. It's very festive. It's glittery. Quite like the color story in here. I actually quite like the quality. It is just for 75 euros. I was expecting a little more. Like, they're really nice sparkly shades. Like, this silver is pretty opaque. I just thought that the pink was kind of random and I didn't really love the formula of that one. The top with these mattes, it's pretty nice. They are kind of like creamy mattes, kind of satin, like the shades of those. I have done looks with this that I quite liked, but it's still very soft. Like, it's shimmery, but it's still very soft. It's not super impactful, and it didn't blow my mind in a way that I just wanted to get back to this palette. And that's also one of the ways I rank these palettes. I didn't want to get back to it, and with this one I didn't really feel like that. It wasn't my favorite. And then we have the Catrice Magic Christmas Story eyeshadow palette. I tried this quite recently. The quality in this is actually really nice. The mattes are very pigmented, buildable, blendable. The shimmers in here are very creamy. I just don't feel like this is an easy palette to grab for because it is so kind of like such a weird color story. We have 3 mattes that don't really go together. Only these 2 kind of more neutrally mattes could kind of mesh. But in the matte section don't really have like a lot of options. And then the shimmers to combine with that are kind of odd. I feel like they could have made a color story that made more sense. I feel like it's just a very hard one to grab for, even though I really like it. I like the packaging. I just don't look at this and feel like I know what look I want to do or what I want to get back into this for. I just look at this and feel kind of confused. Like, I've done a blue look, I've done a pink look, I've done different looks, but now I kind of don't feel like going back to those looks. I wanted a little bit more variation, like, or actually there's a bit too much variation maybe. I just wanted more options. I just needed more mattes actually in this palette, and then corresponding shimmers that would have been really nice for this quality. And then we have the Flower Nose Moonlight Mermaid series eyeshadow palette in 04 Mermaid Dream. And this is kind of like a pastel-y palette with a brown to deepen up. I really like this color story. It's really up my alley. I really like pastel shades that are still quite wearable, kind of like, is it pastel or is it a nude? And then I really like that we have something like this to kind of use as a smoky liner or deepen up. Like, I want to have the option to have some dimension. The reason why this ranks a little lower is because these shimmers are really subtle. Like, they're pretty, but they're subtle, and they're a little subtle for my taste. I like my shimmers to be a little more impactful than this. And also I know Flower Nose can do shimmers that are more impactful than this. Some of their palettes are way higher. I tried different palettes from them this year. But yeah, I love the packaging. I love the mattes in here. Those are really nice. I do like the looks that I do with this. When I look at this, I do feel inspired. So I still think this is a good one. It's just, if those shimmers were like the shimmers that I know they can do, this would have been like top 5. And then we have the Glamlite Berrylicous palette from the Strawberry Shortcake collection. This is a 15 pan palette, yes, of bright greens, bright pinks. It is a very, very bright palette. And the quality in this is really nice. I love the mattes, they blended beautifully. Love the shimmers, they are amazing, stunning. The thing with this one is that it is very bright and you don't really have other options. Like, you don't really have light mattes, you don't really have light shimmers. And I feel, for me, some light colors in this would have made this palette way more versatile. Now it is a little scary for someone who's kind of like between neutrals and colors in makeup taste. Like, this is very much in the colorful direction. I still really like the palette. I still think this is great quality. It's just not one that I consistently reach for because it is very, very, very bright. But that could be a reason for other people to actually really love this, because quality and the packaging, like, it's really cute. I just have to say that ranking is such a difficult thing to do. I know that people always say this in videos, but every time I put something somewhere, it feels like it could be anywhere else as well. Like, not anywhere else, but around that position. Like, there are so many reasons to rank something somewhere. So don't look too closely at the exact positions. They could be a little higher, they could be a little lower, depending on the day, on my mood. Have I used them recently? Like, different things could change the positions for sure. Alright, next up we have the Blend Bunny Sugar and Grunge palette. I feel like a lot of people love this and I partially love this. So the mattes in here, I really love the colors, really love the way they blend, really love the way they look on the eyes. And I do love the whole design and vibe of this palette. The shimmers, however, they crease on me like there's no tomorrow. They crease on me like that's their full-time job and they are workaholic. And I'm kind of sad about it because I quite like the look of the shimmers. quite liked the looks that I did with those shimmers, but then in an hour or two they looked so bad. They just went all up in my crease, in any like crevice, in any fine line. I am not someone who deals with any creasing over here, even though I do have like fine lines here like any person has, but I don't really deal with any creasing of like shimmers there because I do have pretty dry skin, like normal to dry skin. But this, it creased in my inner corner, it creased under my eye. It was crazy. I've never experienced something like that. So I still think I can use this palette because it's mostly matte and I do like the mattes, but I'm a bit disappointed in this formula. But I feel like I'm the only person that experienced this. I haven't heard anyone say anything like that about this palette, but for me it's just partially unusable and it makes me sad. So could have been much higher, but it didn't happen because of that. Then we have the Unearthly Cosmetics Warms My Blood eyeshadow palette. It's a bit of a random purchase that I made in a time of my life where I was like doing some retail therapy. This is what the inside looks like. It is a beautiful palette. The shimmers in here are stunning, the mattes in here are beautiful. It is just not exactly what I was expecting from it personally, in the sense that it is a pretty harsh palette. Looking at the mattes especially, like you can do pretty out there, colorful, harsh leaning looks with this, and the shades that are a little softer are quite warm. So in the end this wasn't my perfect color story, but it is a beautiful palette. The formulas in here are amazing, and I do like the color story just looking at it from a distance more so than looking at it from a perspective where I want to do a look. I think this is an amazing palette. It is just a little scary for me personally. Like the white and the black and the dark red, I wouldn't really reach for that. Like maybe the white on occasion, but it's just a little too harsh and warm for me in the end. But I would highly recommend it if this is your color story. I was expecting it to be a little softer from the photos. I don't know if it was me or the photos, probably me. Yeah, not totally what I was expecting. Then we have the Moira Endless Moonlight eyeshadow palette. This is from the Celestial series. I quite recently tried this and quite enjoyed it. The packaging is pretty bulky. I would have preferred it if it wasn't so bulky, but I do get the vibe that we want here. It is a very like, it does give you the vibe, like there's something kind of like fantasy about it. I don't know. I personally really love this color story. I love neutrals, I love cool tone neutrals, and this is a really nice combination of different undertones in neutrals that lean cool tone. It goes from light to very deep. We have different formulas in the shimmers. Some are a little bit more shimmery, some are a little bit more satin, but even the more satin shimmers I feel are still impactful enough. Like they still have pigment to them, they still look very flattering on the eyelid. I really enjoyed using this palette. It's not the most exciting thing ever. I would say it's pretty basic, but I feel like this type of palette is so basic that we don't really see it a lot anymore in this way with these colors. I feel like things lean a little bit more rosy maybe usually, or they do put in some warm shades to have kind of a combination of warm and cool, but I just want the cool shades, and this is what I got. And I feel like I've dipped into this palette quite a bit. Like I've used it quite a lot. I have dipped into it for specific shades for the crease, and I just really love the formulas that are in here. They're just very flattering. This is a palette where I just go back into, like it's really nice. Then we have the Kaleidos quad. This is the quad in Venus Strap from their Alma Viva collection. This is a cool tone neutral quad with a very shimmery shimmer in here. It looks like a pressed glitter, but it isn't. It is just so shimmery. Quality in here is amazing. I really love the tones in here, really love the quality of the shimmer. This is a really easy one to grab for, even just for the mattes. Like I don't always want such a shimmery shimmer, so I will go into this for the mattes because those undertones and the quality is just really nice. I feel like this one and the Moira are kind of like at the similar spot. It is just that this quality is impeccable and the shimmer in here is just very special, and I do love special shades. But then the Moira is more kind of like the basic, more softer sister to this. Like, do I want something a little bit more out there? I will go for this. Do I want something just very flattering? I might go for the Moira. I feel like these are both really nice, neutral, cool toned eyeshadow palettes. Okay, we're getting into the favorites. We're getting into the goods. Like, that was already the good stuff, but this is the good stuff. Let's move on to the Surrender Eyeshadow Empress Pigment Palette by Unearthly Cosmetics. This was from their Valentine's Day box that I bought. This is a really nice color story. Really love the mattes that we have in here. Really love the shimmers. Really like the combinations that you can make with this. I really love the pink with the purple and the red. Great quality. It's just not a palette that I've reached into like a lot or consistently, but it's really nice. And I'm kind of like, I'm still excited about it. I want to use this more. When I look at it, I'm like, there are a lot of looks I can still do with this. Like, this is a really nice palette. I'm happy that I have it. It's just not one that I've used as much as the palettes that I ranked higher. Then another Flower Nose eyeshadow palette, also from the Moonlight Mermaid series. This is the one in 01 Stellar Sand, and this quality is just really nice, and the shimmers in here are just stunning. I really love this little palette. Just the tones of these mattes, they're beautiful. They blend out really nicely. You can do a soft look or a more smoky look, and then we have two options for the shimmers that are very wet looking, very shimmery but not too chunky, which makes it kind of like elevated wearable, which I really like. I've reached into this one a lot, and I've had it a little bit longer, of course. Like, some of the palettes I've just recently gotten in, so it's a bit hard to so it's a bit hard to rank them very high. But this one, it just has been a consistent favorite throughout the year since I got it. It's just very nice. I love the packaging. I love the color story, or as far as you can call that a color story. I love the colors and the shimmers. Then in the next spot, I'm just gonna rank them together. These are the Perfect World eyeshadow palettes by Ona's Eye. They did a collab with three lovely, beautiful creators. First, we have the Sea Talk palette. This one is kind of like a combination between neutrals and colorful shades. This is a really beautiful palette with really nice shimmers, and I really like the tones in here. The Electric Kelp shade didn't really do it for me personally, but I did like it on other people. For me, I just didn't feel like it really vibed with my skin. Like, not my skin tone, but my skin type. It just looked a little dry. Then we have the Planet Spirit palette with Betty Jean. By the way, the other one was with Lunar Beauty. This is my favorite of the three. It is so fun. It is so colorful. I really love the looks that I did with this. It looks like a palette that would be very challenging, but in the end it was just the right amount of challenging. It got me really inspired, and I did a lot of looks with it in kind of like spring, summer, with kind of like two shades. So a really nice shimmer and then just a matte in the crease, and I loved it. This is a great palette. I really love the quality in that one. And then we have the Flora Story palette. This is with Makeup Just for Fun. A beautiful color story with purples, with softer greens. I've done really nice looks with these purples. I really have to get back into this. I feel like this is the easiest palette maybe from this collection to create looks with. It's so like easy on the eye, this color story, but still like a combination of different colors. It's not too simple, if you know what I mean. It's just the right amount of colorful for someone like me. I just really like it as someone who likes that bridge between neutral and color. Then next up we have a palette that I recently tried, but it ended up quite high. This is the Glamlite Fairy Lights palette, and I just kept this on my desk and I just patted it over different looks. This is such a nice companion palette. The shimmers in here are stunning quality. They are just wet looking, shiny, metallic, sparkly. They just look very airy almost on the lid, and I feel like because of that they're just very easy to tap on any look. They are beautiful. I really love this. We also have the shade Cracker, which is a holographic shade. This one is very kind of like almost sticky, chunky, but very beautiful, really like an impactful holographic shade. This is a beautiful palette. I'm just gonna keep it on my desk still. It is restocking in January, by the way. I keep saying that if you want to grab it. It's coming back, just keep an eye on the website. But I just think this is such a nice, easy palette to just put on your desk because it's really small. And then if you're just missing a little bit of something in your look, then you just grab this and put it on and it's beautiful. Then we have the Side by Side Nude Palette Baby by Nabla. I've really enjoyed it since I've got it. The mattes in here are beautiful quality, they're really easy to use, and I really like the tones of these mattes. And in the shimmers we have 3 different formulas, which I really enjoy. I like to kind of like mix and match with the formulas, and it just really changes up the look. I just think the mattes in here are so good and flattering, and I love the tones on them. Like these are kind of like pinky cool tone, but not too pink. Like they are still leaning very beige. And then we have these 2 cool toned browns, and I've just been going into this whenever I felt like, oh, I need a crease shade in a neutral look. This is great for that, and it's just so easy to use, so easy to grab for. It is just one that I've consistently gone back to, and it just has a whole look in the palette. But it's also a palette that I will just grab because I'm missing something in the look with another palette. Then we have, I think, my favorite Kiko Milano eyeshadow palette that I've tried. Like the quality in this is amazing. This is the Beauty Essentials All Shades of Eyeshadow palette in 02 Earth size. I keep it in the box because we have kind of like this soft touch packaging that I think is gonna get pretty dirty if I don't. But this is what the color story is like. I really like the mattes in here. It's a little crumbly, like there might be a little fallout, but the mattes are really pigmented, beautiful shades. The shimmers in here are stunning. I really wish that this shimmer formula was in the holiday Première eyeshadow palette. Like this shimmer formula is so good. It's just very shiny, very sparkly in a beautiful, sophisticated way, and I've just enjoyed these different textures and the different like shades of shimmers. It is like the mattes are pretty basic, but then you can pop on different shimmers. Like this one is pretty like yellow leaning, which I think is really cool, and then we have this bronzy yellow as well. Like we have some like pink and yellow, and it makes it a little bit more exciting, a little bit more interesting, and it's just a really beautiful palette that I've done really nice looks with that I've really enjoyed. Alright, this is the Lunar Beauty Siren Sunset palette in the next spot, and I actually really like this palette. The mattes in here are beautiful, they blend well, they build well, they look really pigmented, like impactful on the eyes. The shimmers in here are stunning. We have some multi-chromes, we have some different textures. It is just a gorgeous palette that gets me outside of my comfort zone, that gets me doing more colorful looks, but you can also grab it for more like soft cool tone looks. The reason why it's a little bit lower than it could be, like just looking at the quality, this could have been #1. The reason that I put it a little lower is because I feel like there's not really shades that bridge the gap between the cool tone neutral shades that are in here and then the more bright shades that are in here as well. Like I feel like there is not many shades. Like it doesn't feel intuitive to do looks with everything in the palette, to use a matte like this and then blend it into a blue. That isn't really gonna work. I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect. I do really love the 2 like iridescent shades that are in here, the Pink Pearl and Water Nymph. Those are beautiful. I think this is a stunning palette. I feel like the color story is just a little, I just feel like the color story is missing a little something. Like there could be something to kind of like make it feel more cohesive. But I do really love this palette. Like it's a favorite. I love Lunar Beauty. I love the shimmer formula that they have. It is just, I have to be realistic. I have to rank it somewhere. Alright, my favorite flower nose eyeshadow palette of the year is gonna be from the Ballet series, like the Swan Ballet series, and this is the eyeshadow palette in 03 Pink Swan. And the reason that I've put this palette this high is, I mean, these shimmers are just stunning. We have 2 shimmers in here that are so duochrome, wet looking. They are some of the most amazing shimmers that I have in my collection. They are so beautiful and impactful, and I feel like the rest of the color story is just really up my alley. I love pinks. I love having like something like this to kind of smoke out a liner, put in the crease. Like you can make the look a little bit more smoky and deep with that. I do feel like these two pinks, they are a little similar on the eyes. Like they're both a light pink, but the one is a little bit more cool tone leaning, the one is a little bit more warm tone leaning. I feel like for such a small palette, there could have been another shade in here to kind of make it a little bit more versatile, but I just think that this is a look I want to do over and over and over and over again, and that's why I also don't mind. Like I want to do this soft pinky ethereal super wet looking eyeshadow look. Besides that, the packaging of this is amazing. It feels very heavy weighty and it's just stunning. This is just one that gets me really excited. The shimmers in here are just so good. So I can like accept that little fault that I would say is in here with the two like similar shades. Like this is pretty good. And then next up, a palette that I've quite recently gotten into my collection, but it has stolen my heart. This is the first Gal in Jupiter palette by Glassgods. This is a cool tone neutral palette, and it's just the shimmers in here are out of this world stunning. They are like liquid metal. They are so beautiful. I love the different tones of shimmers that we have in here, and we have some really nice mattes to kind of complement the looks that you can do with the shimmers. Like the shimmers in here are the star of the show. The mattes are fine and they are okay, they work. They are not my favorite, but the shimmers in here are just the best. Like some of the best shimmers that I've ever tried, and I do love shimmers the most. Like I'm a shimmer girly, and so good shimmers, they're gonna convince me to put eyeshadow palettes higher in the ranking. Also, I love cool tones. I really love the dimension that we have in this palette. I really have enjoyed all the looks that I've done with this. It is very impactful though, so it looks neutral, but it's like your look is gonna like make some heads turn. Like people are gonna see that you're wearing eyeshadow for sure, but I just love the smokiness of this, and just it is great. It just kind of surprised me, like at the end of the year, Glassgods came out with this color story that was just perfect for me. By the way, there's also a holographic shimmer in here, which is Orion Octavia. It is also really beautiful. It is very easy to see the holographic sparkles. It looks so sparkly and hollow on the eyes. Yes, it's really nice. I really like it. It just gets me super excited. Like that's also a part of the ranking. It's just gonna be part of the ranking. This is gonna be the 4th spot, and honestly my top 4, things could easily change depending on my mood. I feel like this was tough, and this was the toughest year to rank. Like things could change, and I'm changing them around as I go. This is the Dragon Eye eyeshadow palette by What's Up Beauty. I got this in PR, and when I saw the email, when I saw the photos, I got so excited and I was not disappointed. First up, the packaging is beautiful, and then the shimmers in here are so nice. They are so impactful, so metallic, so sparkly, so shifty. Like there are duochromes and multichromes in here. They shades Fly, Fierce, Myth, Magic, all of the shades basically. I was gonna say my favorites, but I love all of these shimmers. I've just done so many beautiful looks with this, and you can go a little softer, you can go a little bit more smoky. I have really enjoyed this, and I just love the combinations of the shifts. I feel like the most special shade might be Scales, because it is so extremely shifty. I don't know if I've ever seen an eyeshadow shift like this. It is just, they did a great job with this palette. These shades also don't need to be wet. They don't need a glitter primer. They just look so smooth and creamy and nice on the eyes. The only thing that I've said about this palette that I still think about this palette is that the quality of the mattes, like they're a little bit softer. So you have to like that. They are not like this super creamy buildable kind of matte. They are more like silky, smooth and blendable. Like they are very user friendly. You don't have to be a makeup pro to work with these mattes. To me, sometimes they feel a little soft in comparison to the very impactful shimmers. But I do really love this palette. I've just had a lot of fun with this. The quality of this is amazing. Very excited about it. I'm gonna put this in spot 3. I switched so many things around. You don't even want to know what it was at first, but there are different reasons why I like different eyeshadow palettes, and I have to say I really love this one. This is a Lunar Beauty and Laura Lee Full Fantasy color palette. The packaging for one I really like, and then the color story I feel is a beautiful mix of kind of neutrals and then colors and then different textures. We have satins, we have more like very metallic shades, we have duochromes. And I just feel like the undertones of these mattes are really nice. And you could go into this for a very like soft and subdued look, or you can go into it for something very smoky, kind of colorful. I really love the row here with the greens. I have done basically the same look twice with this and love this so much. Really love the purples. I just think this is a gorgeous palette. It makes me really excited to wear neutrals. Like, it gets me excited to wear something kind of soft, because even if you pick something soft, it's still gonna be really nice textures. I don't know, it just makes me feel very sophisticated but not boring at all. Like, exciting sophistication, that is what I think about when I look at this palette. I think they did a great job. Like, this color story is beautiful, cohesive. The undertones just, they are very nice. They are so close to being neutral, but then they are just a little colorful, and I just love those kinds of looks. And then in the second spot, I'm gonna put the Glaminatrix Rich Romantic. I've done so many looks with it, and I feel like I'm still not bored of this by far, like at all. I really love the options for the mattes in here. I really love the shimmer formula. There are a lot of shifty shades in here. I really like this combination of kind of like purple, red, pink, and green. Really kind of like this romantic garden kind of idea. And I feel like because these shift, like the shimmers shift kind of like purple, pink, red, green, I feel like the shimmers go with all of the mattes. Like, I really like this palette. I feel like it's hard to pick a favorite shade here because it's just so good. I really love though Intoxicating as a inner corner highlight, like a matte inner corner highlight. It's so good for that. I've done so many exciting looks with it. I've just been going back into it and going back into it, and I've just really enjoyed it. Like, the shimmer formula in this, I feel it's my favorite shimmer formula that I've tried from Glaminatrix so far. Like, they did a really good job with this palette, and I also really like the packaging, like the whole vibe packaging formula. It is just beautiful. Then the palette that I'm wearing today, of course, I think if you watch me then you already know what it is, and I kind of like predicted this in the title. Was it in the title or wasn't it the thumbnail of this video? It is the Little Ghost eyeshadow palette by Angelica Nck and Oden's Eye. And you know, the packaging of this is not really up my alley. It's a little much for me, but the color story, like, I almost let myself be fooled by how crazy this looked. I was like, might be too colorful for me, but then I started using it and I feel like it's super versatile, and the colors that are in here are actually leaning kind of like soft, kind of neutral, like cool tone neutral almost. I feel like the undertones of these blues are perfect. They are just kind of like these soft nude blues. Like, if blue could be a neutral, it would be these shades, and I have just loved my looks with the blues. Then we also have kind of like these curly soft red shades. I feel like that's also kind of like leaning soft. And I used today this purple, which is kind of like leaning brown, and then shade Boo, which is kind of like a pink to blue, like sparkly shade, and we have Skeleton, which is super nice, like this very pale lavender shade. And I also really love Cobweb, which is kind of like a yellowish champagne inner corner highlight shade, which I also use, by the way. I feel like this look, even though it's colorful, it is still kind of like leaning neutral. It is not too bright, it is not too harsh, and I feel like we have a lot of options like that in this palette, and I just get really excited to kind of play around with that. This is a type of palette that gets me inspired, that gets me excited, and that gets me kind of like outside of my comfort zone without it being something that I'm never gonna reach for. I just think this is a great quality palette, great color story, just something that gets me excited about wearing color, about wearing makeup in general. Like, this is a great color story, and I just feel like for the mattes, for the blue shades alone, I would put this in the first place because those blues are so good. This is my number one. Alright, those were all of the palettes. I do have to say, this year definitely wasn't the year of eyeshadow palettes. Like, I've been really into lip products. I've been really into blushes. Like, last year I was really into eyeshadow palettes. This year I just slowed down a little bit on that front. I didn't want to overwhelm myself too much with big palettes, with a lot of colors, with having to test a lot when it comes to eyeshadow. But I feel like next year I want to kind of like dive back into it. I just want to really start testing some more eyeshadow. I feel like as a whole beauty community, people like took a step back from the eyeshadow, but I feel like it's still a super exciting part of makeup, and I don't want to like forget about it. So yeah, definitely gonna do my best to bring more eyeshadow content to you next year. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe, and then I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye!